A man covered in wounds and puffing white smoke suddenly appeared outside a farm cabin. The man claimed to be fleeing from a group of Native Americans hunting him. The farm couple kindly took him in shortly after. The silence of the farm was broken by the sound of hooves. The Native Americans on horseback arrived at the cabin. The woman pretended to be calm and lied that she hadn't seen anyone suspicious. After several rounds of negotiations, she finally sent away the uninvited guests. When the woman turned back into the house, she was shocked by what she saw.
Is all better now?
Hey, baby.
Meanwhile tonight, a concert was being held at a tavern in the small town. Everyone was immersed in the beautiful music, but no one expected that a crisis was about to unfold. 20 in the 1930s, in Mississippi, the American South. In the morning, the cotton plantation is empty and silent. Sammy, a black man, sings as he bends to pick cotton. His moving singing voice wins unanimous praise from everyone. After completing today's harvest quota, Sammy drags his tired body home, briefly washes the dirt off his body, then goes inside to wake his younger siblings who are still asleep. Opening the door and looking at the vast cotton plantation before him, Sammy seems to see his future as monotonous and uninteresting. Meanwhile, after making a name for themselves in Chicago, twin brothers Smoke and Stack decide to return to their hometown of Clarksdale to open a bar exclusively for black people, so they buy a lumber mill from a white boss. On the other side, Sammy goes to the church to find his father, Jed, as the only priest in town. Jed only wants Sammy to take over his job and become a holy missionary. He believes music will only be a stumbling block for Sammy. Sammy says to his father helplessly that he has been working desperately all week and now just wants a day of his own to catch his breath and relax. However, his father doesn't understand.
Play music for drunkards, philanderers who shirk their responsibilities to their families so they can sweat all over each other.
Looking at his stubborn father, Sammy doesn't want to explain further, only says he will return on time for the service, then turns to leave the church with his guitar. At this point, Jed calls Sammy from behind, warning him that if he keeps dancing with the devil will follow him home one day. Before Sammy can respond, a car horn sounds outside the door, and it's Sammy's cousins, Smoke and Stack. It's clear they want to invite Sammy to support their newly opened bar, and Stack even promises Jed that he'll return Sammy safe and sound on the road. Sammy can't help asking his cousins about Chicago, where he's heard black people can go anywhere freely, but his cousins say Sammy is too naive. Chicago is just another Mississippi. Soon Smoke parks the car by the roadside, and Sammy follows his cousins into a side path, where they find pre-prepared supplies, but unexpected circumstances have disrupted their plans. Smoke suggests postponing the opening to next weekend, but Stack objects. After all, they've been planning it for a long time, and the weather today is perfect. Definitely an auspicious day. With time pressing, the brothers decide to split up. Smoke drives the truck into town, and as soon as he gets out, he spots a seemingly reliable little girl. Smoke asks the girl to sit on the truck and to honk the horn immediately if anyone acts suspicious. The girl readily agrees after getting a generous reward. Then Smoke enters a fruit store to catch up with his old friend George, and they share a big hug as soon as they meet. Next, Smoke asks his friend for help. He's hosting a big event tonight and needs to buy catfish for 100 people. As a good friend, George readily agrees. Just as they start talking, a horn honks outside. Smoke hurries out to check, where two black men are rummaging through the back of the truck. Smoke immediately shoots one in the butt, and when the man turns around, Smoke realizes it's his former acquaintance, Terry. Terry didn't expect to be so unlucky today. Looking at the other terrified black man nearby, hands raised and almost wetting his pants, Smoke fires a shot at his leg. The man falls to the ground, yelling why he was shot.
Can't have some nigga talking about how he almost robbed the twins. Not without a limp, show for it.
After dealing with them, Smoke returns to the fruit store, saying he still needs a signboard, which might require Grace's help. George doesn't hesitate, instantly telling his daughter to fetch his wife Grace from the neighboring general store, and explaining Smoke's request to her. The two then start haggling. Just then, Smoke notices the flowers on the table, out of the corner of his eye, and suggests a deal of $14 plus the bouquet as a gift, which Grace agrees to with a nod. On the other side, Stack drives Sammy to the other end of town to recruit performers, and on the way, Stack suddenly gets in the mood to teach Sammy about dating, sharing all his secret techniques. But Sammy is distracted, his eyes always on the window, having no interest in the dating advice at all, only giving half-hearted responses. To liven things up, Stack has to shift the conversation to the guitar in Sammy's hand. At the mention of music, Sammy lights up and instantly starts talking, asking Stack where the guitar came from, only to learn it belongs to Charlie Patton. Stack and Smoke won it from him in a card game. Sammy is thrilled to hear this. Charlie Patton is the father of Delta blues, and he's lucky enough to hold his guitar. The atmosphere instantly lightens, and Sammy immediately wants to play, and Stack is shocked when he hears Sammy sing for the first time. Soon the two arrive near the train station, and find John playing the harmonica for tips in a corner. As the harmonica music starts, Stack and Sammy can't help clapping along to the beautiful melody. After the performance, Stack invites him to play piano at the tavern tonight. At first John refuses firmly, saying he's already scheduled to perform at the Courier Tavern tonight, and the Courier Tavern is a century-old establishment where he can drink to his heart's content. As for Stack's Tavern, it's just a newly opened small place, not even sure how long it will stay open. Hearing this, Stack takes out a bottle of Irish beer and claims it's from Chicago. The rich aroma of beer hits as the cap is opened, and so Stack successfully wins over John the drunkard, recruiting a key member for the tavern. Then John's harmonica and Sammy's guitar weave into a melody. The two improvise on the street. Lively notes instantly invade the ears of passers-by. As the music flows, more and more people stop to watch. Stack immediately shouts out the tavern's opening news, heating up the atmosphere. Just then, Sammy spots a black girl in the crowd and musters the courage to approach her. The two briefly introduce themselves. The girl's name is Berlin, and she's a married woman. Sammy doesn't care and even asks if she's happy.
Careful, boy. You're gonna bite off more than you can chew.
Berlin turns to leave. After speaking, Sammy looks at her back, the light in his eyes dimming. As Sammy is about to turn around, a white figure in the crowd catches his attention. Sammy hurriedly tells Stack that a white woman has been staring at him. When he sees it's Mary, Stack's face changes drastically, immediately making an excuse to send Sammy away, because in this era of clear black-white boundaries, interracial love is doomed to be a disaster. To protect Mary, Stack has to tell her he no longer likes her. Mary widens her eyes, unbelievingly, looking at the man who suddenly seems a stranger, angrily curses and turns to leave. Then Stack drives John and Sammy to a cotton plantation. The person Stack is looking for is this black man in a straw hat and denim overalls. Ryan, clearly old acquaintances. Stack then says working with him would be much better than picking cotton here, and promises good pay. Ryan nods in agreement, seeing the chance to make money. Meanwhile, after leaving town, Smoke parks in front of a simple wooden house. A black woman comes out. Smoke's lover, Annie Smoke, has come to ask her to help at the tavern. The two, who haven't seen each other for years, embrace tightly, wordlessly sharing their deep feelings. A badly wounded man panics as he runs to a ranch cabin. He knocks hard on the door. When the door opens, he sees the farmer and his wife pointing guns at him. The man hurriedly explains he's being hunted by Native Americans. Seeing they don't believe him, the man kneels and helplessly says his wife has been taken. He can hand over his gold, only hoping they'll protect him. Seeing this strong man reduced to crying on his knees, the farmer and his wife take pity and let him in. Not long after, the men the man said were hunting him arrive at the cabin. The leader says they're chasing a very dangerous man, who may be nearby. The man politely asks the woman if she's seen anyone suspicious. The woman firmly denies it. As it gets dark, the man's companions urge him to leave. Seeing she won't compromise, the man can only wish her luck and God's protection, then turns and leaves. After seeing off the uninvited guests, the woman hurries to close the door and call her husband, but gets no answer. Puzzled, the woman goes to check the room, only to be shocked by what she sees. At the same time, the music tavern officially opens. Guests keep arriving one after another. The store is livelier than expected. Ryan works as a full-time security guard at the door. Sammy looks at the grand stage with joy in his heart. John the drunkard plays beautiful piano music. Annie also acts as a barmaid, responsible for serving guests. To Sammy's pleasant surprise, Berlin, whom he met by chance at the train station, actually appears at the tavern door. He immediately goes up to meet her and leads Berlin into the tavern, eager to show her around. Suddenly, Sammy sees Mary, the white woman who previously pestered Stack, thinking she came to make trouble on purpose. He hurries forward to drive her out, but unexpectedly, instead of driving her away, he is pulled into a conversation. Just as the two are deeply engaged in conversation, Smoke suddenly appears and interrupts the conversation. He first makes an excuse to send Sammy away, then pulls his brother Stack aside, instructing him to deal with the emotional entanglement with Mary. Stack says he will handle everything. Then Stack goes up to Mary and wants her to leave with him, but Mary says she didn't come for him, but just to enjoy the blues. It's clear she doesn't want to get too involved with Stack. Stack loses patience and pulls Mary to drag her out. This action completely angers Mary. Then the two have a fierce argument. Facing Mary's confession of love, Stack refuses again. He knows well that there are many obstacles between black people and white people in this era. Stack only hopes that Mary can find a safe place to stay away from him and live in peace. Their argument doesn't interfere with the tavern's atmosphere. With John's piano music, people sway to the rhythm. After one Song, John gains countless applauses. Introduced by John, Sammy comes on stage with a guitar. He wants to express his true feelings to his father. Through his original song, he doesn't want to be a missionary, only blues music is his lifelong pursuit. Sammy's singing is like a passionate flame that ignites the entire tavern. The spirited singing spreads outside, actually attracting 3 white people. Seeing the bad situation, Ryan immediately asks his younger brother to go and inform the twin brothers. The leading man is exactly the mysterious man who previously broke into the farm cabin for help. He calls himself Remick, and the 2 behind him are Joan and Bert, the kind farmer and his wife. Remick says they were attracted by the beautiful singing. They came here just to spend some money and have fun, perhaps fearing they wouldn't be believed. The 3 take out musical instruments and play on the spot. Although their performance is acceptable, Smoke knows the seriousness of racial conflicts. Knowing that white people entering the tavern might cause trouble, Smoke takes a tough attitude and refuses them. He also suggests Remick and the others go to the city, saying there are many cheap bars run by white people there. Remick wants to retort, but seeing Smoke's hand touch the gun at his waist, Remick immediately gives in, and finally has to leave with the other 2. After sending the 3 away, Stack complains to Mary that they will lose money tonight. Mary feels incredible. It turns out that most of the guests tonight are from plantations, and they all consume on credit with tokens. Mary thinks for a moment, and proposes to make some profit from the just now white people, and says that as a white person, it's more convenient for her to communicate. Stack hesitates for a moment, and finally has to agree, and give the gun to Mary for self-defense. Then Mary walks out of the tavern, and goes straight to Remick and the other 2. At this time, the 3 are sitting by the roadside, playing music alone. After they finish playing, Mary immediately claps and praises, then sits down beside Remick and bluntly states her purpose.
And y'all got money to spend.
Oh, yeah. Plenty money.
As soon as he finishes speaking, Joan takes out 2 gold coins and hands them to Mary. Remick says she can take them directly, but the next second, Remick suddenly steps closer. When the greed in his eyes is almost overwhelming, Mary immediately steps back and stands up, points the pistol at them from her waist, warning them to go back where they came from. Then Mary turns and quickly returns to the tavern. Ryan sees Mary suddenly appear outside the door, and asks her what she was doing outside, but Mary doesn't give a direct answer. Considering they are acquaintances, Ryan doesn't dwell on it and lets Mary enter the tavern directly. Before long, John feels too stuffy inside, and wants to go out for some air, but unexpectedly, Ryan stops him. Ryan claims he needs to use the restroom, and asks John to guard the door for a while. He will be back soon. On the other side, Mary returns to the tavern, and hands the 2 gold coins to Stack. Then the 2 go to a room for a private conversation. Stack suddenly notices that Mary is drooling, but Stack doesn't notice a fresh bite mark on Mary's right shoulder. When Smoke comes to find his brother, the scene before his eyes shocks Smoke. Mary's face is splattered with blood, and Stack is lying on the ground, blood constantly gushing from his neck. Smoke angrily pulls out his twin pistols and pulls the trigger. Bullets pierce Mary's body, and she collapses to the ground. But before everyone can recover from the shock, Mary, who was shot multiple times and fell, actually gets up.
We're gonna kill every last one of you.
Smoke hurries to Stack's side and covers his wound with his hand, constantly calling his brother's name, but Stack finally stops breathing. At this point, Smoke is heartbroken and completely panicked. Annie has to step in to stabilize the situation. She tells John to go out and evacuate the tavern guests. The guests whose fun is interrupted leave the tavern complaining. After cleaning up the scene, Grace is also discussing leaving with George out of friendship. George thinks it's not appropriate to leave now, but Grace says they came to help, and don't need to get involved in trouble. Besides, the children are waiting for them at home. George can only compromise and goes to start the car. Annie is the first to recover from the shock. The scene of Mary standing despite being shot multiple times makes her scared. She realizes the situation is beyond normal logic. For safety reasons, it's best to move Stack's body outside, but Smoke is so grief-stricken that he firmly disagrees. Annie can only lock Stack's body in the room, and tells Sammy to pay attention to any unusual noises in the room. Just then, Ryan returns, looking at Smoke covered in blood. Ryan hurriedly asks what happened, and asks Smoke to allow him to go in and help. Before Smoke can agree, Annie keenly notices Ryan's abnormality and stops him. At this point, Annie already has a suspicion in her mind.
Go ahead. Admit to it.
Admit to what?
That you dead. That one of them white folks out there killed you and you a hate now.
Ryan still doesn't admit it, and seeing he can't enter the house, he reaches out to Smoke for his wages. Just as Smoke hands over the money, Ryan suddenly pulls him outside. Smoke is prepared and quickly shoots Ryan in the head. Bizarrely, the fallen Ryan actually gets up from the ground quickly, like Mary before, and walks towards Smoke step by step. Fortunately, Annie rushes forward to grab Smoke's hand, pulls him back into the house, and closes the door thus avoiding the disaster. Everyone in the house is terrified by this strange scene. Suddenly, a knock on the door comes from the nearby room, then Stack's voice comes from inside the room. He keeps calling Smoke's name, wanting his brother to let him out. At this time, Annie reminds them she just checked Stack's pulse and confirmed he is dead. On one side is the brother's earnest plea, on the other side is the lover's serious warning. Smoke falls into a dilemma. Just then, Annie suddenly seems to think of something, and hurries to run to one side. Shortly after Annie leaves, Stack breaks through the door and rushes out. Everyone present is startled. At this time, Annie immediately splashes a cup of liquid on Stack. White smoke instantly rises from Stack's face, then he screams and leaves the tavern. Through the previous verification, Annie finally realizes that those with strange behaviors aren't demons, but vampires. The liquid she splashed just now is pickled garlic juice, which can harm vampires. At this time, Grace remembers her husband George is still outside, and wants to go out to find him. Everyone in the house hurries to stop Grace. After all, going out now may not save George, and may even get themselves killed. Annie says vampires fear sunlight, they just need to endure until dawn. After that, under Annie's command, they start preparing the necessary materials to deal with vampires: garlic, wooden stakes, silverware, and holy water. Although these things can't kill vampires, they can slow them down. There are only two ways to truly kill them: sunlight and a wooden stake through the heart. Annie calls Smoke to the side and tells him if she is infected by a vampire, he must give her a quick death, to let her be completely free before long. Everyone suddenly finds a corpse in the house. They naturally assume this person is also infected by a vampire, fearing he might suddenly get up and resist. Smoke and Sammy hurry to drag the corpse outside. Just as Smoke and Sammy turn to return to the house, a melodious song suddenly comes from not far away. Looking in the direction of the sound, the guests who were previously evacuated have all become vampires. They are gathered in a circle holding a small concert. Smoke and Sammy are shocked and quickly return to the house, in order to confirm whether everyone in the house is normal. Annie demands that everyone eat a clove of garlic. When John swallows the clove, he suddenly feels unwell and reacts strangely. Everyone present watches him warily. Fortunately, after a while, John recovers, claiming he drank too much alcohol, and the garlic suddenly irritated his stomach. Hearing John's explanation, Annie suddenly realizes something is wrong. It turns out the liquid beside the corpse wasn't blood, but red wine. And just then, the man thrown outside wakes up, and knocks on the door in a panic. And the moment Smoke opens the door, Ryan suddenly appears, tackles the man, and successfully turns him into one of their kind. Then George walks over calmly from the side, ignoring Ryan's violence, even claiming Ryan was just hungry. George's actions all indicate he has also become a vampire. At this point, Remick also steps forward and even threatens Grace. If she doesn't allow them in, they will go after her daughter. Everyone hurries to soothe the agitated Grace, and seeing the determined group, Remick reluctantly compromises and turns his persuasion towards Sammy.
Sammy, you're the one I came for. I sensed you. I want to see my people again. I'm trapped here, but your gifts can bring them to me. Y'all give them to me now. Just give me a little Sammy. We'll let y'all live.
Upon hearing this, Sammy wants to sacrifice himself to buy hope for everyone, but is stopped by Smoke in time. Then Remick continues, even if they hold out until dawn, they won't be saved. Kit turns out the white boss, who sold the lumber mill to Stack and Smoke, is actually Hogwood, the leader of the Ku Klux Klan, who can easily lead people to raid the tavern at any time. These vampires even claim that just one bite can grant eternal life, and they can even join forces to fight against Hogwood. This absurd rhetoric doesn't shake the people in the house, and they quickly slam the door shut, failing to get what they want. Remick then calls on the vampires to surround the tavern. Eerie and enchanting singing seeps through the cracks, trying to dismantle everyone's will. Grace looks at her vampire husband George through the window, and pictures of her daughter eagerly waiting at home flash through her mind. Grace can't bear it anymore, and just wants to kill the vampires outside as soon as possible.
Come on in, you motherfucker!
The moment Remick gets permission to enter, a cold arc forms on his. Everyone knows the situation is irreversible, and can only hurry to pick up weapons for battle. The next second, Remick leads the vampire army to push open the door. Grace throws a powder bottle first, and both sides immediately fall into a chaotic fight. Annie seizes the opportunity and splashes garlic water on Remick, as the leader lets out a piercing scream. All vampires actually feel the pain at the same time. It turns out the pain of these monsters is interconnected. Just as Annie urgently conveys this information to Smoke, the infected Stack suddenly pounces from the side, and bites Annie's neck. To prevent Annie from becoming a vampire, Smoke has to follow her previous instruction, and drive a wooden stake into Annie's heart with his own hands. However, the situation is critical, and everyone has no time to grieve. At this time, John tells the others to hurry upstairs to escape. while he stays to cover them, as can be imagined. John is finally eaten alive by vampires. Smoke takes Sammy and Berlin, and tries to escape through the back door, but as soon as the door opens, they see Remick waiting there. Remick is extremely excited to see Sammy, and immediately rushes to claim him, to protect Sammy. Berlin holds back Remick but is unfortunately bitten by him. On the other side, Smoke can only hold down Stack, and try to buy escape. Time for Sammy. Sammy, having no time to grieve, can only turn and jump from the second floor, but he is quickly caught by Remick, and as an ordinary person, Sammy is no match for vampires. Remick flicks his wrist, and Sammy is thrown into the water. Sammy, choking on water, struggles to his feet and trembles, as he recites the teachings his father passed down, but every word is met with Remick's mockery. At the same time, inside the house, the brothers Stack and Smoke fight fiercely. Eventually Smoke gains the upper hand. He grabs a nearby wooden stick and stabs his brother with regret. Outside, Sammy grabs a nearby guitar and strikes Remick hard on the head. Remick cries out in pain, and the other vampires feel the pain too. This action completely angers Remick. He rushes forward to grab Sammy and tries to bite his neck. Just then, Smoke appears in time, drives a wooden stake through Remick's heart, and saves Sammy from imminent danger. Then the sun slowly rises on the horizon. All vampires are instantly reduced to ashes when exposed to sunlight, and Remick dissipates in unwillingness. Everything finally settles. In the end, only Sammy and Smoke survive. Sammy drives back to the church with his guitar. Seeing his son return safely, his father extends a sincere invitation again, but Sammy is now firm in his heart. He knows exactly what he truly wants. After that, Sammy drives away from the church and continues to pursue his musical dream. At the same time, Smoke sets an ambush near the tavern. In advance, Cass expected, the Ku Klux Klan appears, thinking of his brother and friends brutally killed. Smoke is filled with anger and immediately opens fire. Kaith Klan members are caught off guard without any defense, and Hogwood is shot and falls to the ground. Smoke's marksmanship is precise, and he kills all of Hogwood's subordinates, but during the battle, Smoke is unfortunately shot in the abdomen, but he doesn't care about his injury. After all, his lover, brother, and friends are all gone. He has nothing left to care about. Smoke endures the severe pain, walks up to Hogwood, and shoots him dead. 60 years later, Sammy still stands in the center of the stage, telling his past experiences through song, and the story ends here. The film Sinners is hard to categorize as a single genre. It's both a historical drama, a horror film, and a musical and thriller, using the vampire film as a vehicle to delve into African American history and social reality, while bringing thrilling experiences to the audience. It also prompts profound reflection on issues such as race, the good and evil of human nature, and cultural inheritance. The film isn't perfect, sometimes the pacing is slow, and some metaphors about historical trauma are too explicit, but these small flaws instead highlight the work's boldness and vividness, without diminishing its value. If you like my channel, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to it.